Hello and welcome to Geeky Bit. Today I'd like to talk to you about a sort of Macintosh that I bought recently, an Apple IIGS. This will be one of a few videos that I'm doing for something called Macintosh. These videos will be bonus videos and not interrupt the tech history series. You might be going, what in the world are you talking about? The Apple IIGS kind of a Macintosh? No, that's an Apple II. Well, yeah, it is an Apple II, but I also think it kind of is a Macintosh. And I'll explain why. I think it's more or less the first color Macintosh. With GSOS, it feels more like a transitional Apple II to Macintosh than a Apple II or a Macintosh. It uses the Apple Desktop bus. In fact, it was the first. And it uses the same floppy port standard. While it doesn't have the same processor as a Macintosh, it was going to have a 68K card and probably could have been Macintosh compatible. Heck, even the operating system looks the same as a Macintosh operating system and probably has the same underlying software development for it. And those are some strong reasons why I think it's definitely kind of a Macintosh. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about this IIGS that I got. I was searching for Macintosh stuff on a popular secondhand site like I often do, when suddenly I saw an ad for a couple Apple IIGSs for dirt cheap. I mean, dirt cheap. They even came with keyboard and mice. So I was like, what in the world's the catch? And there was a catch. They had been sitting out in the weather for 15 years or longer. But the good news is where I live is pretty arid as it is a desert. So I didn't think there would be too much stuff going wrong with them, but there could have been. But at $20 a pop, it was a good deal either way. And I was willing to take a chance. Before we talk about if they work or what it'll take to get them to work, let's take a look at them. So here we have both of them right here. And here are the keyboard and mice that I got with them. So I'm going to show you the worst of the two. This is the back right here. It's pretty rusted out. So let's take a look at the worst one. This is the inside right here. And as you can see, that rust is absolutely horrible. The other one actually looks pretty decent comparatively. And then we got rust on the stainless steel power supply enclosure, which is crazy. But the motherboard looks fantastic on both of them. This is, of course, after I've cleaned it. And here is the top part. Look at that rust. So let's talk about what it's going to take to get these working. So after I cleaned them, I was worried they weren't even going to work, even though they looked great, aside from the rust that had been on them for sitting outside for so long. So to my surprise, after checking the power supply and everything else, I turned them on and they made the right sounds, both of them. So they looked like they were working. I had no way to hook up the 15-pin RGB output, but they did have a composite, so I tried that out and this is what I got on the screen. So they're definitely working, at least as well as I could test at the time. So next I need to get a few things to make sure they're definitely fully working and test everything out. So to test everything's functionality, I would need a couple more things, and that would be a way to test the video signal from the RGB 15 pin out and something to boot it with, like a floppy drive or a hard drive. To get video output other than composite, I would need a few things. I would need a 15 pin RGB to VGA adapter, and I would need a VGA 15 kilohertz converter. And then lastly, I would need a VGA to HDMI adapter so I could video capture. To get this to work, I actually had to build the 15-pin RGB to VGA adapter. So here's what the 15-pin RGB connector looked like, and here's what the VGA connector looked like, and this is what the short donor cable I bought looked like. And here's the 15 kilohertz converter, and here's what that whole mess looked like, including 3D printed case. Now let's see if we get a video signal. Looks like we do. Great. Now that we've got all that video stuff sorted out, we need a boot device. And boy, did I do a lot of research on boot devices. Of course, there's the original boot devices, and then there's things like Boot I, Floppy Emu, Reactive Micro Drive / Turbo, and a few more. I ended up getting the Floppy Emu as I liked its feature set the most out of all that I saw. And right here is what it looks like, including the 3D printed case I made for it. We've got the video sorted. We've got a boot device. Now let's see what happens when we boot it up. Okay, here we have 6.04 booting up, and as you can see, it looks eerily similar to the Mac OS's operating system and its booting. So we're gonna go ahead and speed past the rest of this, and you're even gonna see the init icons just like on Mac OS. Alright, now that we're to the desktop, I'm gonna click on the Mac icon, well, the Apple icon to be exact, and we're gonna see if it's similar. Look at that, about this Apple IIGS. And hey, look, it's the same screen that you'd see on macOS. So yeah, it's pretty similar. In fact, we have the same kind of file folder setup, and even the trash icon. Yeah, it looks just like macOS. So let's talk about what it costs to get this going and make sure both of these systems could boot. Now keep in mind, I only bought enough hardware to boot one at a time, but I only plan on keeping one, but I'll talk about that later. So the two computers together with keyboard and mouse only cost $40. Of course, I needed a power cable to go with the one I'm keeping. That was $6.45. Then I needed to make my special 15-pin RGB to VGA adapter, and all the parts came to $22.36. Then I needed the 15 kilohertz VGA adapter, that was $24.77, and then of course the VGA to HDMI converter, and that was $11.84, and then I needed the floppy emulator, or the floppy EMU, and that was $116.65, and then I needed an SD card, that was $6.14. Altogether that put it at $228.12. So I only plan on keeping one of the Apple IIGS's and selling the other one. And here's my plan for the one I'm keeping. I want to upgrade the CPU, the RAM, and I want to add a Z80 for CPM, and I also want to add a network card for all kinds of network related things. With all of that said, here's what I'm expecting the final cost to be. So here's what the additional components will cost. The 8 megabytes of RAM will cost $35. In fact, I've already ordered that. The CPU accelerator card, which is a Transwarp GS, will be $450. I know, spendy. A Z80 CPM card, which will cost $129. A Ethernet, which will be a network card, will be $82. And that's what the additional components will cost, which will bring the grand total up to $924.12. So here are my thoughts on the IIGS. I think it is more like a Mac than it is an Apple II, as it uses a lot of Mac standards, including network booting from a Mac to the Apple IIGS, which is amazing. Honestly, I think it's probably a better Mac than the contemporary Macs of the same time period. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. And if you did, feel free to like it. And if you aren't subscribed so already, you're welcome to do so. And if you want to get notifications of when I do new videos, remember to click the bell icon.